Welcome to the Dan Stevens Show. Wow, what an eventful evening I've had. I said I'd leave it till after I performed a gig tonight. I was doing a gig. It's Thursday night, by the way. This episode will be out Friday morning. So I decided I'll do this gig now. I've done a gig in the Crackdown Comedy Club the past 3 nights. This is my 3rd night in a row. I'm back there on Sunday again. And it's been going well. I've been doing good in there. Tonight it was Damo Clark hosting. Brilliant Australian comedian, runs the Crackdown Comedy Club with Eddie Malarkey. Brilliant Scottish actor called Jojo Sutherland. And then myself. That was the first half of the show. And then Shane Clifford in the second half. It was just brilliant headliner. But everything was going fine. I was ready to go. Friend of mine, Patrick Mulholland, he's actually been on the podcast before. He was in the audience too. And I get up on stage and everything is going really well. I called back to the previous act. She's a woman in her 60s, Scottish woman, and I said, I'm also a Scottish woman in my 60s, and that got a big laugh. It started good. I carried on her momentum. She done really well. And then I went into my own jokes and it's going great. I do 10 minutes. That was the set length. I'm about 6 minutes in, 6 or 7 minutes in. And next thing you know, there's a roar from the back of the room. The way this room is laid out, if you haven't been to the Crackdown, it's upstairs in the Workman's Club. Brilliant comedy club. One of the best ones in Dublin. And as you're on stage, in front of you, there's a bay of like maybe 40, 50 people. And then there's a wall, and then on the left hand side there's another like bay of people. That wasn't exactly full, it was about half full, so about 20 people on that side. Maybe. So I'm performing and it's going well. My 3rd night in there in a row. Feeling good. And then this roar from the back of the room. Ineligible in whatever the shouting version of ineligible is. I think ineligible is when you can't read something. But I couldn't hear what he was saying, but he shouted it, roared it, and it stopped everyone in their tracks. It takes you out of the moment completely, you know. And I'm not the type of comedian who interacts with the crowd much. I will a little bit here and there. There's kind of controlled bits of where I will welcome some talk back from the audience, and I have in the past dealt with a lot of audience participation that's not really expected, but it's always in the context of the set, so I can respond to it. It's usually in the context of what I'm talking about in the joke that I'm doing. But I'm not a crowd work kind of comedian. I'm a material comedian. I do my jokes and you hope that it usually goes well, and then I get off the stage. So this took me right out of my comfort zone. And it's a proper, professional gig. They paid for tickets. You're there to perform. And it takes me out and I'm like, what the hell was that noise? Is that a ghost? I was like, because you can't see who it is. You can't see much from the stage. The light is bright on you. It's very well lit stage. It looks great. You'll see the picture in the thumbnail. That will be of when I was performing there. So well lit up, but the light is in your eyes and you can't really see the crowd. So I don't know who it's coming from. I can't see them. It's coming from the corner, from the back. And I get over that anyway, and I kind of do the punchline and it works alright. And then I have a joke about my YouTube channel not doing too well, and he's like, I'll watch it, just when I'm about to do the punchline, and that kind of crosses over with my punchline, and I'm like, yeah, sure you will, good man, and that gets a laugh. When I was responding, it was getting laughs. But usually what happens in a scenario like that is the audience gets a bit sick of it, and they're like, okay, we've had enough of him now. They're on my side, and I don't know what he's heckling. It's very, very disruptive. And then I move on to a joke about a shooting that happened in Blanchardstown a little while ago. And he starts shouting, "You're not the monk," who is like a politician now, actually. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not, and I can't think of anything to say. I'm like, that's not relevant at all. How can I? And remember, just to mention, the audience is it's probably 5% Irish people. It's mainly probably American English. There's people there from Saudi Arabia, Germans, Swedish, like everywhere. Tourists. So anything I can say about the monk or whatever isn't relevant anyway. So I just kind of gloss over it, and I get to the punchline of that joke, and it works well enough, but not as well as usual. Finish my set, and at the end I say, seeing as you're so involved in the set, you might as well reveal yourself. What's your name? And he shouts out, he roars, "Jerry the Heckler." And it gets a big laugh. Massive laugh. I'm like, I said, why did you just give him the biggest laugh of the night like that? You laughed at him more than any of my jokes, and they're laughing even harder then. And I said, well, Jerry, little do you know, you're going to be part of my next set, because I'm going to write about this. And then that got another laugh. And then I said goodbye to them. Thank you. Good night. Thankfully, for the sake of the show, it was then a break, you know. So it was just before the break, and Damo, the host, was able to remove him and whatnot. So I walk out then. When you walk out of the room where the comedy's on, you're out to a bar area of the Workman's Club, and all the audience is dispersed, and they're all hanging around the bar, and 4 lads standing out there, and they're like, Jesus, he really stopped you in your tracks, didn't he? And I was like, no, well, like, okay, thank you. So I'm basically getting heckled again outside, and I was like, man, it's Jerry the Heckler. And then they start laughing, and I give them my Instagram and stuff, and you know, I'm like, yeah, well, I'll be announcing a couple of shows soon. I try to sell myself a little bit to them, and you know, having a good laugh with them. And then as you can't avoid the people, like if you're leaving, you have to walk out past them. And then one other woman is like, you know, your vegan joke, like, would you not say this? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then another girl is like, you know the way you say you look like a deep south racist? I think it's more Logan Paul. And then I was like, oh, thank you. Usually people say Jake or Cake or Bake Paul, so that's nice. I mean, yeah, it's just been happening a lot lately. I just maybe have that energy where I open myself up to people approaching me, and they know I can handle it or something. Like I mentioned on a recent episode that I was in the zoo, bored one day, and went to the zoo for a lap, walking past the gorilla enclosure, and I kind of come from a blind corner towards this woman with her child, and she goes, oh, there's a big gorilla. Look, he escaped, she says to the daughter. I'm like, yeah, I did escape. Ooh, you know, what can you say? But I don't mind it. It just gives me more material, and it gives me stuff to talk about here. Like, on this episode, I was going to tell stories about stuff that happened in the Phoenix Park that I've heard about. Stuff that's not so pleasant. The kind of stuff where the bushes are moving and there's no wind, you know, that kind of way. But no, I said, I'm going to just get home now. Like, this happened in the last hour, 2 hours or so. So I said, while it's fresh, I'm going to tell this story about getting heckled and how it kind of feels after. You get like a weird feeling after it. Like you've been... like your space has been attacked or something like that. But you have to hold it. You have to hold your own, and I'm kind of glad that I used my experience to get laughs from it, and finished with a big laugh by asking his name. And in that, you can't plan for that whatsoever. You're totally using any experience you have and trying to be as relaxed and present on stage as you can be. But yeah, that's the context of that, is that, yeah, I'm doing it nearly 4 years, not a crowd work comedian, a material guy. So this was definitely me out of my comfort zone, and I like that. I wouldn't change it. And now I suppose it's gonna be written about, and I can make a joke about it, like Jerry the bloody heckler, huh? Jerry the heckler. Does he do that at other shows? Is that his thing? I don't know. But just before, so I left the stage then, and Damo went on stage, and the guy started shouting at Damo then. He was kind of just closing the half, saying, oh, we've great acts ahead, and Dan Stevens, well done, give him a round of applause, all this. And Jerry starts piping up again, and he's like, Damo says, yeah, I wish you'd just shut up or something. And then your man's like, I paid 50 quid for 2 tickets in here. And Damo's like, mate, I think you got ripped off, mate. Tickets are 12, so. And then he's like, one of your people ripped me off in Temple Bar. So it's getting more heated then, and the audience is like, Jesus Christ, this is getting crazy. And I think they were very relieved for the half to end of the show. So yeah, he was removed, and like, as I say, you go to that bar area, and Jerry the heckler's just holding court then out there. He's standing there, stocky little fella in his 70s, I'd say. Just see, I don't know if he was like special needs, or if he was just locked drunk, or was he just both? Was he drunk and special needs? Like, what a combination. A powerful combination for a heckler, let me tell you. Because you just can't get through. It's just, he's just shouting up stuff that's not really respondable. So what an experience that was. I mean, it gives you, I suppose it will give me more experience. Like, if you can deal with Jerry the heckler, he was like the final boss of hecklers, special needs and very drunk. And yeah, what an experience. So yeah, I'll be talking about him in my stand-up set. I don't know how it's gonna. You can't force yourself to write, you see, even after something like that happens. I can't sit down and just write jokes about that now. I can say it here and just offload it to you guys, but what way it manifests itself in my writing will come in the next few days. And then I'll be definitely writing a bit about GTH. So that was that. What an experience. Brilliant crowd. Otherwise, they were really nice. And as we discussed after, I said to Damo, the host who works with the Crackdown, I was like, man, I'm going to go home now and talk about this on my podcast. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you know what, mate? People will be more interested because they like when bad shit happens, and not, they wouldn't be interested if a gig goes well. And I'm like, absolutely. That's human nature. That's the nature of the beast. Nobody wants to hear about stuff going well. That's not interesting, and it's not relatable. But awkward and difficult situations and a bit of turmoil and a bit of hardship hits home more with people, I think, because they can, number one, relate to it better. And it's almost like the equivalent of rubbernecking at a car crash, They get to hear about it without being involved. And I've always liked that as well. I mean, that's probably why I'm so influenced by, and why I loved Carl Pilkington and Ricky Gervais and the Idiot Abroad so much. Seeing a fellow like Carl Pilkington in these difficult situations, just basically being tortured by Ricky Gervais for our entertainment in really difficult circumstances, was just the best television I've ever seen. So I think it's all kind of related to that. And I'm glad that I'm able to handle these things and process them in a way where I don't spiral and where I don't self-destruct, and where I actually find it funny myself. You don't realise it's funny in the moment when it's happening, but you can look back at it after and go, Jesus, that was crazy, that was mental. And I guarantee you that gig will be more memorable for the audience than if comedians just come in and do really well. Like, they'll enjoy it, of course, but I think moments like that. Jerry the heckler is now part of my stand-up comedy journey. So we move on, we go forward. I don't think I'll ever be heckled as badly again. Just 5 or 6 loud roars during my set. And unpredictable when they're going to come. Didn't know what he was saying for 4 of them, I think. So, unrespondable toable. But I even afterwards, sometimes when something like this happens as well, you come off stage, or even after a podcast, sometimes I listen back to it and I go, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. But Jerry the Heckler is like, especially for an international audience, it's like, no, you know, if it was a different name, like what could you call him? Jerry the Loudmouth, you know, there's no like famous name or thing you can. There's nothing I'm thinking of after that I could have done different, which is a nice feeling as well, I suppose. After all is said and done, so yeah, asking him his name and to reveal himself and for him to shout out Jerry the Heckler was just perfect. It was a perfect way to end the show. And he had a little gang with him then. Like some of the audience went to him half time of the show as well. They were listening to Jerry the Heckler. 3 or 4 of them. They weren't coming near me when I was walking out. They were more interested in Jerry. So that was that. Please follow along on Spotify if you haven't yet. Please rate 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share if you found this interesting. I find that I found that being a stand-up comedian is fun for me, and when it's going well, it's a hard journey. Like, I dedicate my life now, and I can't do it any other way. I'm addicted to stand-up comedy, and my podcast, you know, this podcast, it's my life now. It's my life's work, and it always will be, and I've no doubt about that. There's nothing else that's going to happen in my life that is more important to me or that I'm more passionate than about stand-up, and I feel kind of lucky. I feel very, very lucky for that and privileged. But I don't know why I said that. Maybe I'm getting a bit sentimental. Yeah, when something like that happens, it's just part of the journey. Doesn't derail anything. If I had a froze and not been able to respond and get off stage early and panic, that would have been forgivable. The host and the crackdown would have been like, oh, I totally get that. Like, they'd be like, sorry. Damo said sorry to me. He's like, sorry about that, man. I tried to tell him to be quiet a few times, and Padge Mulholland, who was in the crowd, my friend, he heard Damo telling him to get out and be quiet. Like, Damo, the host, was in his ear like, will you shut up, man? Be quiet, please be quiet. But he wouldn't. He was just shouting and then shouting at Damo as well. So, like, I think it's kind of maybe reflects on, not to get too deep or sentimental about it, but I think maybe an experience like that reflects on life as well. If you, sometimes hard things happen in life and you've 2 options. You keep going and try and roll with the punches and look at it after and try to learn from it once you haven't been too badly hurt or damaged or anything like that, or traumatized. Or else you can actually just stop and you can be a willing victim and say, oh, this happened to me tonight or today, you know, and oh, Jerry the Heckler's a bastard, you know, and he ruined my show tonight. But it's not like that. It's just part of life. These things happen, and it's, I think, healthy to just reflect on them and try to process them and take the positives where you can. I'm not here to preach, by the way. I'm not here to preach at anyone. We've all had different lives. We all have different stuff going on in our lives. And I was thinking the other day, actually, just to expand on this a little bit, I'm never going to preach at you. I will say what I think and what I believe, and you don't have to agree with me, of course, and I wouldn't dislike anyone for not agreeing with me. But I'm never going to be the type of online figure or comedian or entertainer that tries to tell you how to think. All opinions are valid. There is a lot of comedians out there and online personalities that will try to tell you you're wrong to think a certain way, or tell you what's right to think morally, or tell you what position you should hold over certain political scenarios or anything like that. I'm never going to be that guy. I understand people think differently and they hold their opinions for whatever reason they hold them, and that's the way I'll always be. I'll never lecture anyone. And if I was, I think I've said this before, if I was going to be the type of online personality or comedian who's wanted to say controversial stuff about politics, I could just say it even though I don't mean it. But I don't really have a strong opinion on any of that stuff, because I think you internalise that and it can rot away at you, and it can be unhealthy, it can be stressful, and it can give you health issues and mental health issues because you internalise it and it becomes you. Then it can become your identity if you find a cause and attach yourself to it, and then your emotions are controlled by that cause and your stress levels. Next thing you know, you're sick. Next thing you know, you're not getting out of the house and you're just consumed by it. Again, it comes down to where do you get your news? What are you reading? What are you consuming? Like the food that you eat and the food and drink that you consume has a similar effect on your body as to the information you consume does on your mind, in my belief. So there you go, that's my lecture. Maybe I am lecturing you after all, but that's just how I feel about it. And I had that in the back of my head as well to talk about on this week's solo episode. So that's going to be it from me for this episode. Think how you want to think. And if you ever have the equivalent experience of what happened to me tonight, where I was out of my control and someone's just shouting shit at me while I'm trying to do my job, unwelcome disruption, a spanner in the works, just take it in and try and process it and make a positive out of it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. But hopefully you guys enjoy this, and thanks for everybody who's been checking out the latest episode with Glenn McGowan as well. Really enjoyed that one. I'm going to put the link to it here. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out or listen to it on YouTube. But it's just, the last episode before this on Spotify, Apple or whatever. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Very, very proud of that one, to be honest. Like I am with all of my episodes. But that one was just great. And Glenn is a great speaker, and we're going to get him on again. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the Dan Stevens Show. Hope you've enjoyed. And I'll see you on the next one. All the best. And best of luck to Jerry the Heckler.